Welcome back, everybody. This is ATL Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Shepard. I'm joined today by Illinois College head coach Jacob Waddle. We're going to go through and discuss some recruiting tips, some misnomers. We may vent. We may get on a little sesh. We'll see where it goes, but wanted to have Coach Waddle on today. He knows Coach Chico pretty well, and they've stayed in contact over the years. So, Coach Waddle, go ahead, introduce yourself. Maybe talk a little bit about your journey, where you've been, where you've come from, what you're doing now.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me on here today. I guess it's kind of start back from the beginning. I'm from a small town in western Iowa. Grew up the son of a coach. My dad has been a high school baseball coach at a 1A high school, which is the smallest class in the state of Iowa, going on 41 years now. And so, kind of in my blood from the very get-go. So remember going to practices back in the day as early as I can remember and trying to be a part of that. And so I knew when I went to college, I wanted to get into something in regards to college athletics. My first plan was to maybe get into the athletic director type, the administrator type role. But then, coaching got me. Initially started off, and so we talked a little bit before we got on air here, the relationship with Chico. That was my first coaching job ever out of college in 2010 with Cedar Rapids Kennedy High School and Coach Hoyer, who I think also you might have had on your podcast earlier too.
Yep.
So incredibly fortunate to be able to join a staff there that had multiple Hall of Fame coaches on it right away, to be able to learn from both Coach Hoyer, Coach Herkelman, and also Coach Nauman, who was a big part of that staff as well. Happened to win the state championship with Chico and that squad leading the way in 2010 there with Kennedy. From there, got into kind of the college ranks. Went to grad school, knew I wanted to get into that. Was fortunate enough to get a job with Loras College in Dubuque, Iowa, and have coached at the small college level ever since there. I went to Luther College, a small private institution up in Northeast Iowa, about 2,500 kids there. I've coached at an NAI school out in Nebraska, Concordia University. Spent some time at Coe College in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and then was fortunate enough to get the head coaching job here at Illinois College 6 years ago, and have been here in Jacksonville, Illinois ever since.
Who was before you as the head coach there?
Jay Eckhouse was the coach before me. He was here for, I want to say, 17 years.
I would say he was there for a while. I coached at Iowa Wesleyan for a little bit, and we came over and played you guys before you were there. Long time
probably
ago.
Before. There's been some major improvements since that time, I would assume. The field and facilities have been totally redone since starting in about 2015-16 is when IC started making some changes as far as, in the positive direction with what they're doing with athletics. And right now, things are going really well across multiple sports. And so it's a fun time to be here.
You guys have all turf, correct?
We have turf infield, natural grass outfield. I think my pitching coach would probably leave if it was all turf. It is very much a hitter's ballpark where we play at. The wind blows out of the south a lot here, and the ball absolutely flies. So we joke around, call it the Coors of the Midwest. But it is very much a hitter's ballpark. And so the evening out that the grass allows to slow down a few balls that might scoot through in a gap or something like that, I think is a fair trade-off to the way the ball flies here.
So as a coach, knowing this is not a question I plan on having today, but now I'm interested, especially for a small Division III school, knowing that you play at a ballpark that flies, what, if any, effect does that have on your recruiting development? Like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, it definitely plays a factor in a number of ways, both offensively and defensively. So offensively, position guys, certainly one of the things that we try to do is look to drive the baseball. But we also want to be multifaceted. The years where we've had the most success here, we've had a balance between extra base hits and power numbers and also stolen bases and that type of stuff too. So we want to always try to have a balance with what we do in our lineup. Never too heavy one way or the other. But certainly you have to be able to take advantage when we play, gosh, probably well over 50% of our games at home. We're really fortunate with where we're located that we get some pretty good weather in the spring and are able to host invitationals and games and events pretty early in the spring where, we're playing at the end of February here in the middle of Illinois, which might surprise some people. And so we get a lot of those teams to come down from up north in Iowa, in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, some of those other places to come down and be able to play us. And so it's definitely something that we do. Training wise, absolutely. We want our guys to get bigger, stronger, faster, just like anybody does. But also, you don't want to let it affect your approach. It's not something that we tell our guys where, hey, you have to hit home runs. Otherwise, you can't play here, or you're looking to do that each and every at bat. I think there's a balance and a give and a take. From a pitching perspective, you have to be pretty tough minded. There's some balls that get out here that aren't hit well, quite frankly. And so you have to be tough minded. You're going to give up a cheap one or two here. And we talk to our pitchers about that. And it's kind of their daily routines of making sure that they stick with their plan. And every once in a while, you're going to give up one of those cheap ones, but be able to lock back in with that focus and recover and minimize the damage.
How hard is that to? I mean, I know the answer to this, but look, a lot of the parents and players don't realize how hard is that to instill like a freshman that's coming in. It's his first year, maybe it's year in the fall, and they give up a home run that shouldn't be a home run. How do you develop kind of that hardened shell from a freshman to a senior, or a freshman in the fall to a freshman in the spring? Is it they come in and they naturally have it? Is it, do you kind of talk to them about it? Is it you 6 a.m. run it out of them? What's your philosophy and approach there?
Yeah, we're pretty nice. I think maybe we're too nice sometimes. We don't have a lot of that stuff. Our program, I'm not a big yeller, screamer, get on guys, that type of stuff. And it is more of a, sometimes a guy needs a kick in the butt. Other times, and a lot of times nowadays, guys need an arm around their shoulder more than anything. And so kind of getting back to your original question of how do you instill that in a guy, it's that process versus outcome mindset that you have to have. And so we talk a lot about that, where we're not necessarily evaluating what happened, the result of the play. We're looking at what you did. Are you throwing strikes with multiple pitches? And if so, that's something we can build on. The location, that type of stuff maybe needs to get a little bit better later on down the road. But it's definitely taking baby steps to build in the right direction from when those guys get here to when they finish their career. Mindset wise, I think freshmen come in, and we were really fortunate. We've got some unique young guys, especially on the mound this year, that come in and are, I don't know if a little crazy is the right way to talk about it, but maybe it's because they're left-handed. And so they're different in that sense of where they just don't get rattled too much. They have a lot of confidence in themselves, and they go after and get it. I'm thinking of a couple of guys, Charlie Lardy and Anthony Benora, that have been really good for us on the mound as freshmen this year. And the common thread between those two guys is they're fairly quiet. They have confidence in what they can do, and they just don't get rattled by a lot of things. You don't see the big, waves of emotion, positive or negative, with what they're doing. They're just out there handling their business and controlling what they can control. But I think that's one of the things where guys experience failure out of high school for the first time, a lot of times in that first fall here in college. They're exposed to situations and maybe competition that they haven't been in the past. And it's either a fight or flight type scenario there, where they enjoy that feeling, where they go, hey, you know what? I need to compete and see if I can get as good, if not better, than that person across from me. Or it's that fear of, oh no, maybe I'm not this, maybe I'm not the player that I thought I was. And then, it's bringing guys in, propping them up, giving them the tools and the resources that they need to be able to succeed later on down the road. And I think we try to do a really good job of the organization of all that too.
It's always interesting to see the different personalities and the different maturity levels of guys that when they come in, you you have this picture as you're recruiting them of this kid is really mature, and this kid, like when he gets to school, he's gonna be, he's gonna be great, fine, no issues at all. And then like they get there, and the transition from home to mom and dad and everything that's comfortable to I'm now in college, I'm on my own. I have to get up on my own. I also have weights, but then I have to go to class and I need to feed myself and do my laundry. And the shortstop that's a junior is kicking my ass. Like it's and you think you know which guys are gonna handle it well, but like it's a crapshoot. Like coaches
100.
miss. It's impossible to try to project. I can look at you and then I could look at your parents and I could say like, hey, this kid's probably going to grow up a little bit. He's going to fill out. Like that's pretty easy to project, right? But it's how someone's going to act when they get on campus and how they're going to develop as a human. That's really hard. It's hard, and we miss all the time, and we miss all the time as coaches.
You're 100% right. I've listened to other coaches talk about, during the recruiting process and learning all of this information about the kids, you can to a certain extent,
Mm-hmm.
how do they answer questions? How do parents dominate the conversation versus letting the kid answer for himself? Little things like that you can pick up on, but you really don't learn. I don't know if I had to put a percentage on it, 80-20, 75-25. You're learning once they get to campus versus anything that you can do, maybe even watching them play here in the office through text messages, phone conversations, whatever it is. And you just don't know how they'll react and handle challenges, failure, certain situations, responsibilities, all that type of stuff until guys get here. And so I think that's where culture within your program helps too. And guys knowing that they've been through the ringer, so to speak, as well as young guys or new guys in the program, and being able to lean on some of those people, I think is really good, really, really valuable. But I think you're exactly right. It's really hard to learn everything you think you can learn throughout the recruiting process before a kid gets here and you actually get to know that person over an extended period of time.
What you just said about culture in your program is it's huge, because I'm sure we've all had kids where kind of middle of the road. If you put them with a couple bad apples, they're probably going to sway more towards that. And then there's kids where if you put them with a bunch of good kids, like you'll never have any issues. The same kid where you put them with a bunch of good kids or kids do things the right way, they'll probably lean towards that. And I would say probably most kids at that age are like that, where they're going to just fall into the crowd. And if your crowd is a good culture and they do things the right way generally as a team, then those kids will probably fall in line with that. But it's
I
hard.
agree.
It's hard, man. I mean, even as like the recruiting coordinator, I can give a coach my assessment on a kid's tools and what the paper says and everything, but like I'm not around the kids as much as a high school coach, or maybe it's I'm coaching 17U and the 16U team. We got a player on the 16U team that the coach is asking about. I can give him, well, when he plays, this is what you're gonna get. But if it's tough to give an assessment on a kid's mental makeup and what I think he's going to be in college when you're not around him all the time. And again, we could be wrong. Kids can change, like that happens. But I mean, that's part of the game though. I mean,
it's one of our PowerPoints, one of the slides in our very first meeting of the year about new guys, what do you do? How do you fit in, that type of stuff? And one of the points that's on there is find people to follow.
Mhm.
And that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best player. Find people, everybody's smart enough to know who does the right thing and who does the wrong thing.
Yep.
So you have to make the effort to be able to pick those people and find those guys that do the right things the most consistently and gravitate towards them. It's up to the upperclassmen to be able to exhibit those characteristics and do the right things consistently. But you'd be lying if you're a coach and say that 100% of your kids are doing those things.
Hmm.
But the majority of them are. And that's where I feel like our program is getting to, is the vast majority of our guys do a really, really good job of what they're supposed to do and handling their responsibilities. And so we want our young guys to identify who those guys are, with their work ethic, how they handle themselves in times of failure, struggle, how they handle themselves off the field, that type of stuff, and gravitate towards them. Don't gravitate just because the one kid is the loudest, right? Or jokes around the most, that type of stuff, or talks a lot. Gravitate towards those people that, sometimes just put their nose down and do the work that they're supposed to do. I'm not saying that we want to take away personality traits, and
Oh, of course.
we let guys be themselves, probably more than most people as well. But there's also a clear and distinct line to where, hey, this is go time. Like, this is competition time. This is where it's time to work. Versus, we can joke around about me being an Atlanta Braves fan and 75% of our team being St. Louis Cardinals fans,
Right.
right? There's distinct times where you can do those things and have those conversations, or give each other a hard time, or even the coach, that type of stuff. But identifying those leaders as young kids, I think, is as important as it is for, the older guys identifying who's a leader amongst themselves too.
Gio used to have this saying when we'd get all the kids together. It's um, like be yourself within the structure of us, and that's basically like you said. You don't want robots, and you don't want, like, we all have to act this way and do this. Like, you want kids to reach their full potential, and to do that, they need to be able to be themselves and express themselves and be different individuals. But also, there is a standard by which this team is going to go by, right? There are rules you're going to follow. We want you to be yourself within those rules. And I would say, to your point of, finding a leader, this is more so to the kids that are going to be in college next year and in the future. If you're looking for a kid to follow, if you ever have to ask yourself or question if something an older kid is doing is the right thing, or if it's a little bit like on the line, that's probably not the kid to follow, because it probably is on the line, and you go to the next one. But that's so many coaches have mentioned the best years they have is when the young guys come in and they just kind of attach themselves to an older guy to learn the ropes, because that's the hardest. I mean, that first freshman semester is just the hardest, where kids just get lost.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so hard to get back. Like, once you lose that first semester, and some coaches get what they are going to think of you in their head, and it's never any better. It never changes. And then, you're either transferring or you're having just a bad baseball experience.
Yeah. There's freedom to make a lot of wrong or right choices when you get to college, that's for sure. And trying to surround yourself with people that make the majority of the right decision is very, very important. That's for sure.
Um, kind of not changing gears, but moving on more about recruiting stuff. Obviously, you guys are Division III, so you don't give athletic scholarships. I coached at Division III level for 7 years or whatever it may be 8. So I know all the academic importance of that.
Mhm.
Kind of go, and we have even 13-year-old kids in our organization that will kind of come up to me the day after I post a podcast and be like, "Oh, I listened to so and so." Like, it's really cool. So, I guess just discuss a little bit how and why those grades are important. The GPA is important, and maybe give a little example of, hey, if you're looking to come to this school and you've got a 3.8, we're going to give you 50% of your tuition. But if you only have a 3.0, we're only going to give you 10%. Maybe, take it and run with that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I think our school recently has done some really nice things as far as the financial aid packaging. The world's changing, right? In terms of value of education and all of that type of stuff. You have a lot of competition with where kids can go, and our schools made a really concerted effort to make sure that you're getting one, value out of your education, and two, it's worth it, that type of stuff. um, as far as we're concerned, we're looking for guys that have over a 3.0 GPA typically. It's really hard. It's a difficult process for us to get guys in that have below a 3.0. And oftentimes, honestly, it doesn't make financial sense for some of those kids to be able to pay all of that money and get here anyway. What our school has been able to do is we've got some programs in place with the state of Illinois right now, to be competitive with the public institutions. Those a kid wants to either go to the University of Illinois or come to Illinois College. We're going to be really, really similar in all of those. When we recruit against NAIAs, and even Division twos with their low number of athletic scholarships, oftentimes, unless they're getting a really huge athletic scholarship, we're going to be really competitive with what the financial cost is to go to our institution. And so that's where you have to be with the world these days, right? Junior colleges, that's another story to get into. I know more and more kids are gravitating towards the junior college level, and I could go into the both pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
I understand kids that want to go to a 2-year institution, not only because of the cost, but because of you're chasing this scholarship or whatever it is at a Division I institution. But I think it's really important to evaluate those types of schools, right? Just even in the landscape of here in the state of Illinois, what you have, man, it's some fierce competition with other schools across all levels. You've got a Division II junior college national champion 2 hours away from us in Heartland Community College. You've got Division IIs in Quincy and UIS that are 30 minutes away and maybe an hour and 45 minutes away that were both in a regional a year ago. And so the competition for kids is stronger than ever. And being able to find that value, financially, situationally, baseball wise, obviously factors into that too. Being able to go somewhere where you're wanted and where you'll be able to play, I think are huge as well. I've always argued against to where would you rather go to a low end Division I school and finish your career with 15 to 20 at bats, or would you go to or would you rather go to a Division III school and be a 2-time all region, 1-time all American, and end your career in the top 5 in multiple offensive categories, have 400 to 500 at bats, that type of stuff. And so I do think there's some value with all of that as well, and knowing the situation that you get into. And I think that's probably why the transfer portal is out of control right now.
Mm-hmm.
Guys go there with an expectation, maybe an unrealistic expectation of what their experience or what their playing time is going to be at those certain levels. And the cutthroat nature of the business is you got to perform right away, and if you don't, it's going to be tough for you to crack into there.
It is taking a completely different approach, and it's the world we live in. So I mean, we could get on here and we could rant about, like, nowadays and this and that, and it's not going to do us any good. It's You kind of just got to adapt and change with the times, and if you don't, then you find a different career or you retire. But I what you said about finding the right fit and go where you wanted is something that, like, on this podcast and in this program we preach, because for all the things you mentioned. I mean, going where you wanted and not trying to force a fit. Like, yes, there is those stories where a kid bets on himself and he walks on, and his life has changed because he's now worked himself into a draft pick or an All-American at a Division 1. Like, those exist and those are out there. Percentage wise, there's been much higher percentage of kids that have come out happy and not transferred, and are just happy that they decided, I'm gonna go to Illinois College because this coach blows up my phone because he wants me, instead of me blowing up another person's phone and just hoping that he responds, and hoping the two kids in front of me at catcher that they're recruiting, they go somewhere else, and then I'm the last man standing. Or I'm gonna go to Illinois College because, like, he's going to invest time in me because he knows I'm very good and I'm a borderline kid. It normally works out that you go, you know, where you're wanted and who wants you, and instead of trying to force a fit. Um, and I've said, I think the cliche of would you go to this school if it weren't for baseball is kind of true, but also I bet there's a lot of kids like that don't know about Illinois College because, like, we had kids that we would recruit to Oglethorpe, which was in Atlanta, and kids would be from Atlanta 10 minutes down the road, and they would say, wow, I've driven past this place 1,000 times, I've never come in. You know what I mean? So, and that kid comes to Oglethorpe, he has a great experience, and it's like, well, would you have come to Oglethorpe if it weren't for baseball? They would say, hell no, I would have went to Georgia or whatever. So it's, yes, it sort of is true. Like, you want to go somewhere that you're comfortable with, the school, and it's not just completely uncomfortable. But I don't think the question of, like, would you go there if it weren't for baseball is totally fair and true, because, you know, when I look up I type in Illinois College, I still get stuff for the Fighting Illini. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's, you guys are just a small school and you got the same name as the big one, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I think going back to one of your original points too, I, I am not in the business of, wanting to crush people's dreams of, chasing that Division 1 scholarship. But I do think too often people see that the four or five instances where that kid, is surprised with that athletic scholarship, and then they post it to Twitter or it gets highlighted on ESPN, but they're not highlighting the 6,000 people that are in the transfer portal right now because that didn't work out for them, or they picked somewhere where it wasn't the right fit. And so I just think there's something to that, where if if that's your choice and you really want to bet on yourself, then you need to be all in on that. Bet on yourself, and that's the way it's going to be. And if you get 2 at bats in your 4-year career, then you need to be happy with that. But also know that there are so many other options out there with quality experience, with quality experiences available, and with really good quality baseball that's going on. I wish everybody, in not only in our area, but everybody in the country, would be able to take their travel team or high school team or whoever it is and go to the opening round of the Division 3 regional, whichever one's closest to you, and see the quality of baseball that is played at those places right there. I would be willing to bet, out of the 6 teams or 4 teams in a regional now, each of those teams is going to have an upper 80s to low 90s arm, right?
Multiple.
Multiple
Of
That's
those
why they're in the region. That's why they're
in
in
the
the region.
regionals. I mean, yes, I would be so surprised.
You're going to see guys that are grown men, in those middle
Yeah,
of the order spots. Like, those guys can absolutely mash. You've seen you see it all the time, and it's not only here in the Midwest, the East Coast, some of those teams down south in Texas and stuff like that. There's so much good baseball at all levels across the country where I think people would be really surprised to go to a Division III game and see the quality of talent that is on display at those games.
Brother, you are preaching to the choir. My biggest thing has been people don't watch and go watch enough just college baseball at any levels. All they see is what is on TV and what is showing in the SEC. And I don't think you want to play a SLIAC, game on TV. It's not going to be watchable. But if you go and you see Webster University against, I don't know, not Fontbonne. I don't want to say Fontbonne. Another
Spalding's probably one of the top
Spalding.
ones there.
If you go watch one of those games in the first round of the regional or not, like you're going to be like, oh my gosh, like these kids can ball. And that's been my thing since the first episode of this thing, and even way back before that. If kids from our area would go watch Emory play Piedmont or Emory play, Birmingham Southern, they would be like, holy crap. But they just don't. They just think, oh, it's Division III, but like, because they don't know many of those schools. But you're gonna have guys throwing, like one of my best friend coaches at Denison. He's got multiple guys in the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, they're starting. One of their starting guys is now pitching at Maryland for the last 2 years that he got back from COVID, and he's a Maryland weekend guy. Like it's Division III it's about depth. Obviously the top end is still a little lower, but like you're seeing, there's a lot of guys that are stars for their high schools that wouldn't go sniff the field for a year or two on Division III. So it's not, and it's all about just being aware and watching games. And I had a Division II coach tell me one time, like, we get so many kids in our program by throwing them a $500 scholarship and labeling it as baseball, but really it's coming from academics, and we just label it baseball, but the kids get to say on social media, like, I'm getting a baseball scholarship. And I wanted to
those dang NAIs, right?
I wanted to feel some sort of way about this coach, but I mean, I love this guy. I couldn't, because the game is the game. Like, if kids are going to go because they're getting a $500 scholarship to be on a JV team of a Division II school, like, tip your cap if that's what gets them there. And that, hey, if I have 50 kids on my roster, I get another assistant coach. If I have 70 kids on my roster, I get another assistant coach. I need more assistant coaches to make our program better, because we're now implementing a drive line with our pitchers. So I need a data guy, for both, whatever. Like, and if that's what you got to do, and that's what works. But
yeah,
I
mean, the talent level there. I mean, even thinking back to our regional 2 years ago, back in 2021, 3 years ago now, played Wash U, the number one team in the country.
Oh my God, Wash U is that when they had the draft?
Lotos. And so they had Caleb Durbin at shortstop, who was drafted by the Atlanta Braves. Mm-hmm. And now Lotos, their pitcher, I want to say he's a top 5 prospect and potentially has the chance of being called up this year for the Cardinals. And so, I mean, those are 2 guys right there that you're playing against in the regional. Same year, Webster's down there. I mean, I don't think, Josh Fleming, right? The Rays pitcher. I'm not sure if he's still there, but I mean, a lefty arm in the low 90s type of deal.
We faced him when he was a freshman. When I was at Iowa Wesleyan, we faced him.
COVID year. With the COVID year ending, I think it'll make stuff more interesting now. I wonder, with the trend of grad transferring and all of that stuff now that it's over, a lot of kids were able to take advantage of that. And I think it was a positive, giving those kids extra years. We had a kid that went from our program who was a catcher that went down to Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Was a huge Memphis fan. Brother went there, was able to make their baseball team and actually playing a few games down there for him as well. couple pitchers in our league. There's one out at East Carolina now. There's one at the University of Illinois Chicago. Guys are being able to utilize those extra years, um, and parlay them into the success, or parlay the success that they had at the D3 level into other opportunities. And I think that's great. Not that I want, talented kids leaving all the time or anything, but I think for that extra year when they've exhausted all of that eligibility they've had for their original programs, I think that's fantastic that those schools are recognizing the talent that's all over the place.
I wish you're absolutely right. I wish, and this will never be a thing, but if there was able to be some sort of stipulation put in where, hey, I used up all 4 years at a Division 3, I'm going into a master's program at a Division 1. I now can play for 2 more years. And I'm sure that something like that will never happen outside of another COVID event. But like you're just seeing, and maybe this is because like, I played Division 2, I coached Division 3, so like I'm a small school guy. It's seeing like these kids that I know can compete at that higher level, getting a chance to go have both experiences, because I'm sure most of those kids would tell you. Kenny Littman was the Denison pitcher that is now pitching at Maryland. I'm sure he would have told you like, well, if I went to Maryland out of high school, I would have just went to school. I wouldn't be pitching here, and I wouldn't be where I'm at 6 years later without going to small school. But I went to the small school. I got the personal coaching that I needed. I got Rome to make me who I am as a pitcher, and now I'm ready to go compete at this next level. But it's not for being at the small school Division 3, because I do think there is a benefit, and it's just something that's different about being at a small school. The relationships with your teachers, the whole campus feel is just more personal than being at a bigger campus. And if you go play at a bigger school, like you still have a great relationship with your coaches, but I would be hard pressed to find kids that have those same relationships with their teachers at a big school that they do, or professors, if you will, that like at Illinois
I would
College.
agree. I would agree. I mean, our professors know that our guys are baseball players, right? Probably by the way that they dress. You kind of see guys, all baseball
Oh
guys,
yeah,
feel like they look the same.
there's no
Yeah,
hiding. If you play sports at a small school,
they know it.
95% of the time they know.
Yeah, but the great thing is you know they understand and they are very aware of success on campus too, and so they're very willing to come over and support. Our president, she's fantastic. I would be hard pressed to know if there's a president that attends more athletic events than what ours does. And I think she really started the upward trend of athletics here at Illinois College when she came here. I want to say maybe 8, 9 years ago now at this point. But yeah, you want it. We're an enrollment driven business, right? We have to have a certain number of people to be able to function as a small school. However, how are you going to do that? You want to be able to put your resources back in to those people that are here. And you've really seen it here, in recent years with the investment that they've put into, again, facilities, what we're able to do, being at multiple small schools and building relationships with coaches at other small schools and talking about budgetary type stuff. We're in such a really, really good position here. It's incredible. We're really fortunate and really thankful that our school realizes the benefit, for our student athletes in the investment that they're putting back into them. And so I think that's huge. That makes maybe our institution a little bit more even unique than some other small schools, because our guys have it really, really good, with how they're taken care of. And once guys get here and start to go around and see some of the other facilities, schools, that type of stuff, I think they start to realize and not take that kind of stuff for granted for sure.
It was always fun, not fun, but like when we'd get a transfer, a bigger school will come and they would say, "Man, I just wish I would have like found this place, out of high school or sooner in my journey." Fair, but if you would have came here out of high school, you probably would have not appreciated a lot of the things that we can offer, a small school can offer, because you just don't know. Like Sheets talked a lot about like perspective. Like the kids out of high school don't have perspective, but the kids after a year or two of junior college or a year or two of a bigger school that didn't get playing time, they just don't have that perspective of what's important to them, why is it important, why things work the way they work. And I think that's just huge, and I think we're moving more towards people being okay and accepting smaller school offers and not just chasing the Instagram posts or the Twitter post and all that. Again, I think everything that a small school has to offer is amazing, and I would always vouch for that. And the development as a human at a small school, and maybe it's the same at a big school, but again, I don't have those experiences. But I always think it's second to none. And I think college is what you make of it. If you want it to be fun and outgoing, and it will be, but if you don't want it to be and you feel like it's a small school and you don't want to go out and make friends, then it's going to feel like a small school and you're not going to go out and make friends. But
Yeah, I'd agree. I think our team is unique in the sense that we have those guys with the perspective that you're talking about. We have a number of D2 fallbacks. We have junior college transfers. We have transfers from other four-year institutions. And then the core of who we want to be is obviously recruiting high school kids. And so I think that mixture of guys allows maybe some of those new guys to kind of know, or maybe to be put in place, if that's the right word, if they feel like they're being slighted in some way with what we have, where they can go, "No, man, you should have seen my JUCO. We had nothing. We didn't even have a weight room. We had to go to the local Y to be able to work out, whatever it is."
We packed peanut butter and jellies, like
yeah, that type of stuff. And so that perspective that those guys offer, with being able to mix in some of those kids that have had other college experiences, I think is really, really valuable to what it can bring. And then also the development aspect. You brought that up. Man, we're putting a lot of time into that. We're putting a lot of resources into the development of our players too. And so to think that you have to go JUCO or D1 to be able to have that development as a player or as an athlete, I would argue against that. We're doing everything that a Division I program would do as far as weightlifting, arm care program, velocity development, strength training, whatever it is. We've got a lot of tools. We've put a lot of effort and resources into technology in recent years, where we have hit tracks, we've got multiple Rapsodo units, we've got just implemented velocity-based training with our weightlifting. And so there's a lot of things that we're doing that kids probably don't even realize, that a lot of Division II or low-end Division I schools don't have those resources available to be able to do that stuff. And again, we're really fortunate to be able to have that. But those development aspects, maybe you wouldn't think that they're at a small school or at a Division III, but they certainly are in certain situations.
Well, information is so widespread now that it's, coaches are more knowledgeable, coaches are getting better. It's not just this is only available at a Division I school. This is everyone's doing it because a lot of coaches are buying in. So this is how you make players better, and a lot of baseball coaches love baseball, so they want to figure out how to make their players better. And I think there's a lot of coaches aren't like, this is the old school way of doing it, this is how we're going to do it. Like, a lot of coaches are very forward thinking, and it's a younger crowd, and even a lot of the older guys I know, like, they're moving towards like, what's the best way, and they know that with kids today's day and age, like they're being exposed to Rapsodo and exit velocity and all this stuff with a organization like the ATL Lightning. If these coaches aren't going and getting that and bringing it to their programs, kids are going to be like, "You're still doing the towel drill? Like, I'm not going there. Like, I've been throwing weighted balls for the last 3 years of my life. Like, I'm not going to do the towel drill. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, coaches just got to change, and they have. And I think, there's a lot of. I mean, we're seeing it with how many Division III kids have moved on to Division I. With all the extra COVID years and all that. So, Coach, we end every podcast with the lightning round. We are the ATL Lightning, so we have to call it the lightning round. So to be short, quick answers. And I'm curious to see how many of yours are the same as Coach from last week. So see if he wore off on you at all.
All right.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
Do you put pineapple on pizza?
Absolutely.
Artificial turf or natural grass?
Man. Grass.
Favorite MLB ballpark?
That's tough. The lightning round. I won't get into more of that, but
you can. Tough. People do. I mean, bro, we call it the lightning round, and everybody they have to expand on every answer. That's true. Grass if turf. This, but turf if this.
The turf is so nice and allowed. Like tomorrow, for example, we wouldn't be practicing in grass. And so it's so valuable to us. But there's just something about that natural feel.
Oh, nothing beats it. But I mean, if we're talking about practicality, then you have to go turf. But like nobody loves cutting a grass baseball field than
the aura, the atmosphere of grass.
Favorite ballpark?
Oh man, favorite ballpark. I wish I could say Truist, but I haven't been there yet. I got to get down and see you guys to be able to go there.
Yeah, you do.
Favorite one that I've been to, probably Wrigley. The atmosphere around Wrigley is really cool.
Well, my next question is the Big Green Monster or Chicago Ivy, but
I'm going to go probably the Chicago Ivy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pitching duel or offensive clinic?
Offensive clinic.
And then pro or anti-shift?
Anti, especially after University of Chicago shifted the heck out of us last week, and it worked.
Is Fitz still there?
No, he's not. Where's he at? I think he's an athletic director at Lewis up there now. Kevin Tyrell is the head coach now.
You got pregame superstitions?
I change my socks after throwing BP. Guys make fun of me every day that I do it.
No, I change my socks and shoes right before the game because normally I'm out doing field work and or sweating, and once your socks get wet, your feet are going to be miserable.
Yeah, it's cold. They make fun of me and they say, why do you do it? Aren't you going to keep sweating? I go, no, my job is done. Like I'm standing the rest of the game. I can jog over to the third base box. I'm not going to work up a sweat doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a chase grounders down guy in the third base box. That's not me. I let them go 99% of the time. So no, my sweating is done.
They're weird for not understanding.
I tell them that all the time.
They don't have perspective.
They don't have perspective. And maybe I should make them throw more BP.
There you go. Make them throw BP.
That'd be good.
And then make them stand in the third base coaching box with wet socks for a couple innings, and they'll understand real quick. I mean, I would go as far as changing socks and shoes because, I mean, you guys, I don't know if you have any dew on the grass in the morning, but
yeah,
like I'm cutting the field in the morning at 8 a.m. before everyone gets there. My feet are wet from walking the grass. You know what I mean? Like we would have the push mower with the roller on the back, put designs and patterns in the field. My socks are soaked.
I would agree with you,
brother. I
try to avoid it. I usually spray the lines on game day. Paint because we have the grass outfield, so I'll spray those lines to make sure they're good on game day. And yeah, every once in a while you get a little dewy on your feet, but I haven't gone as far as changing shoes yet. Hasn't been necessary, but the socks for sure.
I think changing of the shoes is more so because I'm doing the field work and they were getting muddy or dirty and you're
Yeah,
watering, and
I get
it
it.
just became a thing. It's like once you do it a couple times, it's like, oh, I'll just do it every time. That way, I would always have my field work shoes, and then I would always have my game shoes in my bag,
Yeah.
and it would just be routine. I wouldn't even say we have superstitions. It's more routines.
Yeah.
Um,
Where are you from originally, by the way?
Ohio.
From Ohio, but then spent time in Iowa and stuff for
I'm
quite a few years.
Yep, from Ohio. Went to school in West Virginia for 4 years. I actually went to Washington Jefferson for 1 year before that, and then I spent a year in Wisconsin at Northland College.
RIP.
Brother, everywhere I've been is shutting down. The college I graduated from, done.
Really?
Iowa Wesleyan, done. Northland College, about to be done.
You mentioned Fontbonne. I don't. Did you hear about Fontbonne?
Are they done too?
Closing too. Yeah.
Is the same guy the head coach there, the big, tall, lanky guy?
The guy that's been there, Ryan Good.
Yeah, that's him.
He's been there for a while. Yeah, he's taller, big guy. Yeah.
Likes to drink beer.
Yeah, he does. We are usually on spring break with them at the same exact time, so we'll play them before spring break typically because we're not that far from them. But then we stay at the same place down in Florida, and so we'll run into each other every once in a while. He seems like a good guy. I don't know if I haven't really hung out with him a ton.
He's fine. He's fine. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I like him.
A little bit of a smart ass, but so am I.
He had one of the ultimate lines to an umpire, probably the most aggressive, but maybe true line that I've ever heard. He screamed, "You're scared as shit right now, aren't you?" to an umpire. And he was. The umpire was. The call was wrong. It was in our favor, thank God, for once. That doesn't happen very often. But he was in his face, and like all of a sudden he goes, "Wait, you're scared as shit right now, aren't you?"
Oh my God, dude.
He goes, "You need to find a new profession." I was just like, oh my. I could never get myself to say that.
But, he don't care, man.
No, he's a veteran.
Care.
You can do that when you've been somewhere for a long time.
Yeah, you got a little bit of street cred. Favorite Gatorade flavor?
Purple. Gatorade Zero.
That's my favorite. Zero and purple.
Here we go, right here. It's a free shout out to, I guess, Walmart. I drink this every day. The energy drink packets, wild strawberry.
Yeah.
I'm not a coffee guy. I'll drink an energy drink every once in a while. I love caffeine.
Man, I love caffeine too. I love coffee, but I've been drinking the Celsius packets.
I have those back there too. I don't know if I got an array of stuff on the back shelf there.
However you're feeling that day.
Bars, that type of stuff. Got to represent the random squads with the Bills and Jayhawks and Atlanta Braves there too. So,
last question. It's an important one. Vince Vaughn or Adam Sandler?
Man, you can't go wrong either way.
No.
Let's go Adam Sandler. I mean, that's more my original era. You go back to like Big Daddy and Waterboy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I picked two goats. You know what I mean?
Happy Gilmore, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Well, Coach, thank you for coming on today. Good luck with the rest of your season. You guys got about 15 regular season games left, and then hopefully a tournament berth. I
believe so. Yeah, I think that's what we're at is 15, 3 or 5 conference series left, 3 games against each team. So definitely good stretch here still to come, and looking forward to the challenge for sure.
I wish you guys nothing but warm weather and winds blowing out, because it's way more fun to score 20 runs than score none. So
exactly. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully I'll come down your way and see you guys down.
Yeah, man. When you're come on down, hit up Chico. We'll go to a Braves game and show you everything there is around here about that, and maybe do a little recruiting in the summer.
Sounds great.
All right, Coach. Have a good week, and enjoy the weekend as well. Good luck.
Thank you. You too.